Hey, welcome to week 4. I'm so excited that you are joining us as we continue our study in gospel-shaped emotions. My name is Kevin, and if I've not met you, it's so glad to have you here with us today. If this is your first time in group, I hope you find a welcoming environment to where you can study the Word of God with like believers in pursuit of Jesus Christ. When we think about today, as we turn in our Bibles to Luke chapter 8, we're going to look at a very familiar story from the words of Jesus. This is a parable about what it looks like to be rooted in joy. So let me read to you an excerpt of that parable. And this is Luke chapter 8, verse 13. It says this, "And the ones on the rock are those who, when they hear the word, they receive it with joy. But these have no root. They believe it for a while. In a time of testing, they fall away." I think that we can receive things with joy, but as the truth of those things hit us, it's going to be the root of the gospel that brings joy to our life. I can remember one of the most joyous things I ever saw happen with my dad is when a doctor came out after my mom had had a surgery and said the surgery was successful. From the way that his face began to shape, from the posture that he took, it was joy. He was extremely joyful. But that was short-lived. For as the doctor talked about what the road would look like for my mom, he began to think about anxiety and worry. But yet, that joy would return. When we think about joy and what it is, and especially as compared and seen in this passage, let's look at what Jesus is talking about. This is the parable of the 4 soils, and there's different ways that different people react to the Word of God, and especially the word that he's going to use here is seeds, and how seeds grow, and how they take root, and how we are preparing the soil for a seed. So what does the seed mean in this parable? It's really the Word of God, the gospel message. Who's this gospel message for? Well, it's for everyone. And in this parable, we're going to see how different people react when the Word of God comes into contact with their life. So you're going to see here, and the ones, that parable, that soil, these are different people who receive the Word of God. When they hear the gospel is something that is proclaimed. It is announced. We don't happen upon it. You see, what will happen is it comes upon a different soil that is a rock, and what happens? The enemy takes away the joy of the Word of God. When we hear the Word of God, when we receive the good news of Christ, the Word can take hold of our hearts and our soil, if I could use that word, and it can be rooted in joy. What is the difference between receiving the Word of God, having joy for a short time, and then that joy leaving us? Now, let me say, it doesn't mean that you have a false sense of your emotional state. What I mean by that is there are times when you can be real and raw before the Lord. There's going to be times as a pastor that I don't feel like being joyful in the Lord, but there's a deeper joy that the Word of God can give us. It's more than just a temporal emotional high. Let me remind you, our emotions are not bad things, but they do need to be controlled by the gospel and who Jesus Christ is. So why in this parable is the joy lost? Well, number one, there's no perseverance. There's no steadfastness. There's no grit. What I mean by that is when your circumstances change, when life is less than joyful, Perseverance, the word brings perseverance. Let me give you a personal example from my life. Often when I wake up, some of my first thoughts are not joyful. I start thinking about my calendar, I start thinking about the decisions that have to be made. I can think about all kinds of things. And one of the things that has been a treasure in my life is that I pour a cup of coffee. If you're not a coffee drinker, you can find something else, and I open up the Word. The Word stabilizes my life. The Word helps me see beyond the circumstances of my life to the joy that is set before me. It gives me perseverance to run this race, the race that Jesus Christ has for me. Because I'm going to need perseverance. Why? Because I'm going to be testing. You're going to see in this, they receive it with joy, but there's going to be testing that comes in our life. And often when that testing comes, we fall away, and our joy quickly falls away with it. Take care, dear church, that the joys of this world, the false joys sometimes that come in and tempt us and test us, don't let it rob you of the eternal, lasting joy that you have. The pleasures of life can quickly come away and take away this real root of joy. Real joy comes when we hold fast to the Word. One of the songs that we are singing this year as a church, He Will Hold Me Fast. When we sing that as an anthem, it means that this God who we can have eternal joy in and with us, His Word holds us fast. His truth holds us fast. His promises, they hold us fast. Real joy comes when you're able to hold fast to the Word. It changes your heart and you're able to bear fruit. Go back to that time when I can just remember joy on the face of my father. As the physician was telling him about the prognosis of my mom, I quickly realized that it was not going to be a joyful pursuit. It just wasn't. And my dad began to understand that it was not going to be a joyful pursuit. But I saw an enduring joy out of my dad that I will always remember. With every doctor visit, as my mom's health began to fade, as her body began to wither, he served her in joy. And that joy came from a remarkable deep well. And it was the well of Jesus Christ in our life. That's where we stick the bucket that we need, the bucket of our life, deep into the well of the joy of Christ, and we draw up every day the joy that we can have. This gospel message, it comes to us and it lures prodigal sons and daughters, prostitutes, thieves, and every other sinner home from the pig pen of our life back to the waiting arms of the Father, who loves you unconditionally. So today, I pray that your heart is in a place to receive the gospel message with joy. I pray that the people that you're going to surround yourself with today, they give you joy. I pray that the church that is alive in Jesus Christ gives you joy. And I pray today that as the Word is open among friends and community, it brings you joy today.